Hey y'all, welcome to Off the Beaten Path. My name is Cush.
My name is Breezy. On our podcast, we explore the great outdoors and the Second Amendment with a blend of culture,
comedy, and conversation. And oh yeah,
I'm making beats.
Yeah, I don't know why that's still. I feel like we do that on every episode.
We know, we do. Yeah, we'll have to get over the intro, but we know the backstory to it, and it makes it funnier.
Well, folks, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Welcome to another episode of Off the Beaten Path. We have a very special guest. I'm going to introduce her as Bethany, but I'm going to let her tell y'all about herself a little bit. So, Bethany, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on. And for people who are listening, tell them a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm Bethany. I'm a little bit of everything. I'm a military wife, a homeschool mom to 5, devout Christian, and I just do everything in the outdoors from homesteading to hunting, shooting, all the things. And yeah, I've just kind of been out here in this space, just sharing my journey, and it's a lifestyle. So there's really no rhyme or reason. It's just kind of what's in season and what's can, happen at the time.
Now that's awesome. For you said a bunch that a little bit of everything.
Uh-oh. Hold on, we're losing you. We're losing you, Cush.
Me?
Yeah. There we go. You're back. You're back. I'm
hardwired.
It gives me some time for.
Yeah. The one of the things that we really love about you, and Rob and I have talked about this for season 2, is that you are really centered around your faith. Your faith is your anchor. Next season, Rob and I are going to be talking a little bit more about our story and how we came to our faith. But since we first met, I could tell there was something different about you. I love how you carry yourself and how you lead with your faith. And I think that's powerful because when we're from Florida, the first time I saw a mountain was, I don't even remember, but just recently it was reignited, and I remember standing there thinking to myself, yo, God created all of this. You know what I'm saying? We're just as early as, like, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Breeze? I had no faith.
Yeah. I think I might have to. I'll jump in on this one and carry that. I'll take the baton and keep it running. So real quick, because we want to get back to you, but I don't know how much of our backstory that because Cush and I had a recording studio in South Florida, in West Palm Beach, where we're at, which is basically an hour north of Miami. And we're both music producers, engineers. We put our blood, sweat, and tears into it. I went down real bad with COVID in late 21, and it really changed both of our lives, changed both of our faith. And, we made a full pivot into Apex Mountain, which is what brought us here now. So it's amazing to I'm curious about your testimony. Like, what was it that, how did you find your faith? Because I always love testimony stories and how people found their faith in God, because I know how I found mine, and Cush as well. So I'm just curious if you don't mind elaborating on that a little bit for us.
Yeah, so I grew up in pretty much a Christian home. We had a small church in the beginning. That grew into a really large church, but my parents were really involved, Sunday night, Wednesday. And then as I got older, my dad actually started a ministry for fatherless boys, and started a BMX bike racing team. And so I traveled with them doing that. Yeah. And I used to race bikes as a
Hold on,
kid.
I hate to stop you. I have so many questions already. First of all, real quick, you were born and raised in
So I was born in Arizona. My parents moved to Oklahoma when I was younger. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was pretty much raised in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And our church, it was a country church, became an inner city church. They actually bought an old elementary school. And so it was in like a neighborhood that really needed the, outreach and the Lord. And so a small town, Oklahoma. And through that, our youth ministry was a big outreach at the time. They had like a skate park and they would bring a lot of kids in, and then we would have a service afterwards. So we reached a lot of kids. And through that, my dad came into like all these boys that would come riding their
Yeah.
bikes. My dad used to ride bikes. So he was like, hey, we could turn this BMX for Christ. Let's
Amazing.
make a team. And so
Wow.
those were like my older
We
brothers,
needed this
you know.
here. Like, where was this? Hold on. So you said you got into BMX bikes as well?
So
Yeah,
okay,
because my dad was doing it. So it was like, bring the kids. Yes,
so
I used to
let
race
me ask
bikes
you a
as a kid.
question.
Oh, hold on.
Mongoose or red line?
Red line.
Wow.
And yeah. And so actually my kids raced when we lived in Jacksonville for a while. They have a really big track up there. So my kids raced when we lived in Florida. But yeah, so I did that for a while.
Okay.
Did a lot of puppet ministry with our church. I was really active as a kid, but it was kind of like you knew all the stories, but there was no like application because I was just surrounded by it. So whenever I became a mom,
Mm,
the Lord really, met me there and was like, this is what
Wow.
I had, busted my tail to get my degree done. And I was planning on going to work. And I just like, man, I felt the call to stay home and raise my kids and just like pour into that. And that was so countercultural to what I had been like preparing for. Like I just got this degree, what does this mean? And so yeah, I surrendered to the Lord in that point, and I stayed home with the kids and really dug into like, what does a biblical homemaker look like today? And
mm,
God didn't make us all robots. He made us different. And how can I reach people and still be who I want to be? And that kind of led into the outdoors. I just started sharing my life online, and the outdoor side of it just started like, there was just a lot more engagement on that side. And so I was like, well, I grew up a country kid. I thought I was the only Black girl that hunted because nobody was showing that at the time. And I didn't really grow up hunting per se. I actually grew up shooting. My grandpa was a gunsmith. We could hunt. We could have access pretty much to BB guns, pellets, 22s at will. I grew up on 55 acres, so really barefoot childhood.
mm.
And I was only taken hunting a couple times, other than some predators on our land. We had badgers and coyotes that would try to get our chickens and stuff. And so I didn't really get to go hunting. And my grandpa has like Boone and Crockett records, big hunter. My dad went hunting. And so when I
Wow.
was old, like, I want to do this. So I really was a self-taught person. I got in with people that mentored me, some friends, and yeah, I've just kind of been out here doing it, and I love it.
So there's a lot to
Wow.
unpack there that
Yeah,
I
you
really
dropped
love.
some real gems for
Yeah,
sure. I'm
but
sorry if I stepped on you, Kush. I feel like you're lagging a little bit, but go ahead.
am I still lagging?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm plugged into the
Direct in, huh?
direct in.
Right into the matrix.
That's the Xfinity,
Wow,
brother.
you said an expression that I've never heard before. What did you say? You had a barefoot childhood? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. That is amazing. So
Yes.
you were just out there
So
running
a lot of
wild, huh?
people, especially in like the homeschool realm, you'll hear stuff like, I'm raising wild and free kids, or
Yeah,
there's the barefoot movement.
What happened?
Barefoot and Balance is a really good book. But yeah, that's really what I was raised on, just
I love that.
as long as we stayed in between the fences. And my mom, if she needed us, she had a bell. And if my grandpa, he needed us because we lived on the same property as my grandparents, he would ring his bell. We know that, oh, the kids need to go
Yeah,
there. There's like they're calling us there. And we just
that's
played.
beautiful. I love that. What a
Yeah.
great testimony. And I love that you said, because we all find the Lord in different ways. He did give us free will, which is
Yeah.
great. So, and I ask myself that a lot. What is like my walk look like? And the application of it, because I was very unplugged from all that. That didn't mean anything to me for 44, 45 years of my life. I went to church as
Yeah.
a kid. We got into Revelations, and I'm like, I'm out of here. So, fast forward until, I mean, really, that's what
Yeah,
fast
I
forward
know.
until I have
It's
my.
just funny the way you say it. I'm out.
Well, because
Or-
listen, you touched on, like, that's my child. You talk of BMX biking, skateboarding. I'm in South Florida. We had the
Oh,
beach
yeah.
Yeah.
is 10 minutes away. I had a surfboard. I had a skateboard. I had a half pipe in my backyard. BMX bikes. So that was really my childhood. And I love to hear your testimony and how you actively think of how you can apply it to, your family,
And
your
I think
home life.
growing up in the church, you know all the stories, but when you become an adult, walking it is totally different,
Mhm.
and um, there was a time that I definitely wasn't walking with the Lord, but when I
Mm.
became a mom and we had been going to church in California, we went to a huge mega church there, great pastors, and that really, I was like, what does this look like for me now as an adult? Like mom and dad aren't taking me anymore. Like, how is this going to
Mm.
work? How's it going to work for my kids?
Yeah.
And so it was just really interesting to, walk that. And like now, we've made totally different choices and, we're raising our kids different. And it's just really just been a blessing though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you and you are in Arkansas now though, right? Is that right?
Oklahoma. Yeah.
Oklahoma.
I'm
Oklahoma.
in
Okay, you're in.
Oklahoma
I don't
now.
know why I keep saying Arkansas. I apologize. Um, yeah, I love. And do you feel like looking back because hindsight is 2020. Like you 100% made the right decision with that.
Yes,
With yeah,
100%. And,
yeah.
being a military family, we've moved a lot, and there's
Mm,
only a couple constants. The Lord's been constant,
mm,
same thing like with our kids choosing homeschooling. The homeschool is constant. A lot of variables change, but those are
right.
constants, and that, as we've moved around. And so I definitely think that you look, sometimes you don't know because most of it's walking by faith, but you look in the rearview mirror and you're like, oh, that's what the Lord wanted for me.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
So and I'm glad like we're talking about this because so much of your content is like you're very public with your faith. And well, before I proceed anymore, so Breezy's gonna actually be chopping a beat. Breeze, you got the sample lined
Of
up?
course. Yeah. Yeah. You ready?
Yeah, just let us hear what you're gonna be chopping up. So
You
by the
want to hear
time
what
we're
we're
done with
cooking
this
up here?
episode, he'll have a full beat completed.
I will.
Awesome.
Let's see. Hold on. This is a good one. I think this is a good one. I searched long and hard for this one. Let me know what you think about this, Bethany. All right.
Okay.
Welcome back. Is that what it said?
Yep.
It's kind of
I
going
can't
in and
hear
out.
it on my end.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, it's
Oh,
going in
okay.
and out.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. Okay. We
Ah,
talked
what are you
about
gonna do?
that.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
So, anyways, he'll be chopping up that beat, but so let's talk about you in the outdoors because like we said earlier, we touched on it. Our faith is a big part of that for us, and I know it is for you. How has the reception been for people? Because I don't know if people realize it or not, but I look at it as you spreading the word through your lifestyle. And not just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just putting on like I'm an influencer. You're just like, no, I'm actually a God-fearing woman, and this is how I live my life because of it. How's the general perception been?
I think it's because how I started sharing. Uh, it's never been like, oh, now all of a sudden she's sharing this. Um, I really just started sharing my life as just like a mom, and I actually started sharing my life on like Instagram and stuff before I even was able to start hunting because there was a lot of years that I was at home with littles, like all my, I have 5 kids, and there was a time where they were all like really small. And my husband was deploying a lot or doing a lot of military workups. So I just shared a lot of my faith journey then, and then it just started to where we got a hunting lease, and we shared a lot about that, and so there was never a huge switch like I needed to, share like a big testimony. It was kind of always like I was always kind of sharing that. I think the perception has been uh, surprisingly, I think a lot of people in the outdoors are believers, and
Yeah,
a lot of companies share a lot of stuff. So I don't think there's ever been pushback on it. Um, I don't think that I've been, I do think some companies do try to stay neutral, but I've never been told like by like a sponsor or company or something like that. Like, hey, don't share this, with that. That I've never been kind of like muzzled in that sense. And I do think as well, it is a spot. I do believe it's a mission field too. People, a lot of people see my content. A lot of people see my lifestyle, and I hope it's mostly encouraging, because I think a lot of women feel like they have to live up to a certain expectation to be a godly woman, or have to look a certain way or live a certain way. And I'm hoping that I can just share like, hey, this is biblical womanhood too. And you can, shoot guns and hunt and do all these things, and hopefully, reach somebody else that's in that space.
Yeah, because I think when you yes, and I agree with you. A lot of outdoorsmen that we've come across are of the Christian faith, and I always like, we kind of migrate with both groups, right? Like we're very faith driven, but obviously we have our groups that of people who aren't, that maybe they are of the same faith, but they're still like, part of the world and doing what they're doing. And it's cool because at some of the shows, mainly SHOT Show, right? SHOT Show is the great divide. It's like, yo, are y'all going partying? Nah. What are y'all doing? I'm just going back to the room. Like, it's that expectation. Like, I'll go network, but I'm not gonna go get drunk out of my mind. I don't want to. I think that sets a precedence of how who we are as people, first and foremost, how we take our faith, and then obviously the third one is the precedence for our business. Like, we want to make sure that we're putting something with integrity out, and let people know that, hey, this is, because I've said it before, we publicly declared our faith, because for so long, when Breezy and I, we call it our wilderness period, when we were in the wilderness, man, we would publicly deny Christ, make fun of like church people when like early on in our walk. And so I'm
way out in the wilderness.
Yeah, I'm very intentional on making sure that people understand, yo, I'm not perfect, but I do take my faith seriously, because I know where I was, and I know where I'm at. And so I'm glad that you said there's companies that don't muzzle you, and I'm glad that you're able to identify that your content just resonates with people who might have questions. What does a godly woman look like? And you're definitely breaking the mold for what that is, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be, I don't know, the typical whatever, because you're out there hunting and you're doing some pretty cool stuff. Now that opens the door. So what's your favorite type of hunt? I know we've talked about this before, but
oh man, whatever's in season. I'm really not like, I do like hunting big game like elk. That has been something that I really, really love doing. But then I've also had a lot of opportunity to hunt birds. And so I do hunt a lot of turkey and waterfowl. And that has been just as fun for me. I love hunting turkeys. So they're pretty top on, like, high on the list. And I like hunting deer too. So I can't really say I like any one over the other. And the same thing with like weapon choice. I'll hunt with a crossbow. I'll go hunt with a rifle. I just want to be out there doing it. So, I want to learn, and there's stuff that I haven't done that I do want to do. So I really don't have like a favorite, because I just want to do whatever I have the opportunity to do. So I love all of it.
How often do you hunt?
So that's like another thing. As a mom, you don't always have the same opportunities. I think I hunted deer this year, like, I don't know, 3 times maybe. I did not get a lot of opportunity to get out. My son was heavy into football. However, I did get out one really good time in Missouri and landed a monster buck. So that was awesome. That was a blessing. It was not a farmed place. It was a free range ranch. Like, it was a surprise to everybody that I harvested that deer. So just really a blessing from the Lord. And then I went out a couple times duck hunting. I got to hunt with Remington. That was really cool. And then I went out. I went on a bear hunt with the Bub Jackson Preserve, which was really awesome. And that was just kind of like a last minute thing. Was not planned. It was just an opportunity that placed itself. And I was like, yeah, we can make it happen. So I don't get to hunt often, but I try to make it at least where I'm going out a couple times each season. and fill in
That's
some
awesome.
tags.
And so you obviously harvest all the meat, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. We take all the meat. So for the bear, I harvested I bring back a lot of the meat, but I also, since it was like a community thing when you're hunting bear with dogs, I gave some of the meat to the people. Obviously, I was flying back, so I didn't want to take all the weight, but I did take a lot of that meat back. The ducks we keep. Um, yeah, we keep all the meat that we can, and my family eats it because we have a big family and meat's
Yeah,
expensive.
man. Is there a standard like for that? Like say, oh, we hunted with dogs. Is there like, oh, I have to give them like 10, 15 pounds or is
No,
whatever?
no, 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 no. You can keep it for your like I could have kept that whole bear. That would have been fine. So but just because there was a lot of people there and I was flying and I had to freeze the meat so that it would stay good before, as I was like in the plane. And thankfully I did that because my luggage actually got held up overnight. And but whenever I got it, it was still like partially frozen. So it was great. But no, it's not, you don't have to give it up or anything like that. Like I took the whole deer back and my turkey when I killed the turkey in Florida last year and I bring all that back.
That's cool. How long does let's say for instance that deer that you harvested, how much meat does that produce and how long does it last?
He was big and I still have so for deer, most of the time I want to keep the back strap and everything else. Like if it's the first deer, like that was the largest deer that we harvested, I got most of it made into ground meat. And then I
Oh,
add
wow.
10% fat. Usually it's beef fat that they add to it. And so I still have ground meat because you can do so much. It's just anything you use hamburger for, you can use the ground deer for.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
cool.
really helps the longevity of it.
Yep.
So I still have the deer meat in there. And then like my elk, she that was like 279 pounds that I harvested like a couple years ago. And that lasted almost the entire year.
Wow.
Obviously we weren't only eating elk, but it lasted pretty much the entire year. Um, you know,
Yeah,
pulling
wow.
in deer and just buying stuff from the store, chicken and stuff like that. I really
Yeah.
didn't have to buy that much meat throughout the year
So
because we
do you
also had cow. I had a cow.
do you oh wait, like you process the cow?
My parents, they leased their land and they had got a half a cow and they gave us a quarter of it. So between that and the elk, and I really just had to buy chicken and fish
Oh
and
wow,
some
that's
pork.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's cool though. But I mean, I think that's like the ebb and flows of hunting. To think you're gonna
Yes.
harvest something every hunt, I believe is unrealistic, right?
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of, I think that's another thing I like to share is, times that I go out there and I don't get anything because, we have a mentality a lot. I think, especially new hunters, they'll watch TV shows and it's a 20-minute clip and it shows the entire hunt that might have been actually a week, might have been several sits, but there was always a harvest at the end most of
Yeah,
the time. But that's not realistic. And I've went plenty of times. Me and Dane went out. We got Drew for post this year because I hunt a military installation mostly, and we didn't get a deer off of the post this year. So, but I went out several times. So it's nice to show those because I don't want moms to think that oh you get something every time.
yeah.
That's just super unrealistic.
So yeah, let's talk about that because I love the family dynamic. I love that you're raising your children in the faith, and I love that your husband is supportive. Now, hats off to your husband, my man Dane, because I know he is active military. So I appreciate you. I salute you, Dane. Talk about how he supports you because honestly, you're on the move. I see you like you attend some of the
Yes.
big shows, you some of the smaller shows, but you're hunting, you're creating content, you're a homesteader. Talk about that, like the importance of working as a couple, you know?
Yeah, so he has just been really amazing in this journey. Obviously it didn't start like this. There was a lot of years that he got to hunt. When he actually didn't grow up hunting either. We just fell into a mentor that he worked with in Florida, and So he started hunting with him. And then that led into me being able to have opportunities to hunt. And he's just been super supportive of it. He's not always here because of the military, but always has wanted me to have like that individuality and been able to do and pursue the things that I want to do. And he likes to do it too. So he obviously he duck hunted with us this year. He went out. He did get drawn for elk this year. He just was unsuccessful, and then he harvested his first turkey last year. So it's kind of been like, an ebb and flow. But he also does see that it is a business and I write about it. And so I need the content opportunities to be able to, write and test gear and stuff. And so it's just kind of been a supplemental income for our family. So he does see that side of it. So he's just been really great and letting me do like what I dream to do. So he jokes about it because he's gonna retire in like 6 years. And so he's like, maybe I'll just retire and then follow you around and get to hunt and video you and stuff. So
that'll be cool. So now obviously there is a certain level of fun and even intimacy in hunting together as a couple. Do y'all ever get competitive with one another? Like, I killed the biggest game this year or whatever?
No, probably just because I do get more opportunities than he does. He is active duty. He doesn't get to get out as much, and it is my job, and I have more opportunities given to me, or presented at least. So we don't, but he's really helped me a lot as far as like, on the range, and so he really helps me on that side. And so we don't really get competitive, but I think it's just really encouraging. We don't get to hunt together that much either. And so when we do get that opportunity, I do love doing that, just being able to be in the outdoors together, because we don't get to hunt together as much.
Because my wife would definitely smack talk me. She'd be like, "Oh, I got the big," and I'm like, man. But again, like I've said this throughout this entire season of this podcast, is that the 40s is about the outdoors. I just got a 6mm arc rifle, and so I'm prepping. I shout out to Right On. We have a hunting scope now, so there's a bunch of stuff like Rob and I and some of the guys we're preparing for to be avid hunters and outdoorsmen, because I'm from the school of, I love the Second Amendment, but I don't want that to be my sole identity. I want to be a hunter. I want to go harvest meat, and I want to go just sit in the outdoors. If I don't get anything, will I be upset? Yes. But just being able to sit somewhere where God created it, I'm having some sort of connection with nature and some fellowship with either my brothers or whoever it is I'm out there with, is a beautiful experience. There's something I want to talk to you about that I've heard you mention a few times before, person to person. Talk to us about how you're introducing ladies into the space, because I think that's such a powerful thing, or rather a powerful aspect of your story, that I don't think people realize how important it is to just expose other people to your lifestyle.
Yeah. So I started, when I moved to Oklahoma, I was like, man, I'm from Oklahoma. I want to get involved in the outdoors. This is something that I want to do. And so I started, I'm sorry, can you hear my kids?
No, I can't hear anything. I can't hear
Okay.
anything.
Okay. I started, attending some women groups, and through that, I got friends with some of the leaders of those groups and got to, the NWTF, Women in the Outdoors, Pheasants Forever, Women on the Wing. And I was able to really help some of those girls in leadership. I became best friends with them, and really help other girls also learn and join in. I talked at a couple of range days here in Oklahoma, and just really promoting women getting in the outdoors. And then I started writing about it, and saying like, hey, like this is a thing, women are the fastest growing demographic in the outdoor industry right now. And so let's foster that, and I think social media has a big part in that, because women are able to see other women doing it. And now we have all these organizations bringing women like programs. And so yeah, just being a part of that. The NWTF have been really active in their Women in the Outdoors program, writing about their Women in the Outdoors program. The Bub Jackson Hunting Preserve being big with their women that they're bringing on. They, introduced a lot of minority women, first-time hunters into the outdoors. So that's really awesome. And just really like highlighting that because it is a small piece. And so in the outdoors, you have all these women that are, I mean, they're like getting it. There's so many women that are just like, on fire. They're harvesting game, but there's a lot of women that are new too.
Yeah.
And so I write primarily to the beginner. That's a lot of the stuff that my focus is, like bringing more people in, because this frankly, if we don't diversify the outdoors, if we don't open up the door for the people in the outdoors, we're just not going to have the vote to protect the lands, to protect gun rights and the people to care about it. So it's really on my heart to really link people, and I talk a lot about hunting heritage too. And the reason for that is because if we can link people to the heritage of hunting, and have that, like, this is what my people used to do, because we all come from hunter gatherers. It just might have skipped a couple generations.
Yep.
If we can link people to that, we can get people to like, this is our why. This is why I want to keep doing it. And so it's a really big passion of mine. I want to see my kids have the opportunity, and I want to see my grandkids have the opportunity. And if I don't share that, if I don't promote that, then that might be lost for a generation, So that's why I really care about it.
I never even thought about like my grandkids. I don't have any, but it's cool to think that one day you're gonna be somebody's hunting Mima. Oh, I'm going hunting. Where you going? With Mima. They'd be like, what? You and your granny hunt together? That I think that's cool. Breezy is a testament to that, because he was I don't know if he could hear us. Yo, Bobby.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So his intro to the outdoors, his father was a Tennessee Tim, was a outdoorsman ninja, and Breezy, he grew up doing stuff in the outdoor. Well, I'll let you tell it, Breeze, because it's your story. I just saw you beating away, so I was like,
I was in a rabbit hole, but
you were off the beaten path.
I tried to, yeah, I was off the beaten path for real. I'm just jumping in on the conversation, but yes, I think a couple things that I would say is that's what makes this, I guess, reintroduction into the outdoors so special for me, because I understand things on such a different level. Like I was just having a conversation with my son the other day, because I was saying, man, we keep talking about it. We have to get outdoors, get a hunt going. And I said, now I understand that was my dad's piece. It was this place to unplug, and we'd be out there driving the Jeep around, thousands of acres, and just out with nature hunting. Because I used to think as a kid, Dad, we've been sitting in this deer stand for like 8 hours, dude. What's going on? And he's just there, like, not moving, just as stoic as possible. And now I have such an appreciation for that. So it's cool to get, like I said, reintroduced and meet people like yourself and so many people that are living it. I guess that's the best way to put it. Every day, all day, harvesting, hunting, living off the land. That's a beautiful thing. So.
It really is.
That's really where, like, I envision. My birthday was yesterday, so what I envision the next few years of my life,
But yo, Bob, let me tell you something. Bethany, me, Dane, my brother, all February babies.
Wow, look at that.
All February babies.
I mean, it's unfortunate you couldn't make it to the better month in March, but you still had birthdays, so it's good. No.
So, hey, Bethany, I want to ask you a question. Do you feel connected to your childhood when you're outdoors?
I do. I think that this is definitely an extension of that, I grew up with it. It's at some level of like, I'm comfortable with it. There's not, you're learning things, but there's this kind of like that, like, I've been around, firearms before, and really hasn't like wanted me to do that for my kids. You know, I bring my kids along, they hunt with me, not all the time, and they've also hunted themselves. And so, you know, kind of just make sure that that's passed on. You know, I was taught as a kid, not everybody's going to be a hunter, but you should have the skill to do so if you need to.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel with my kids. And not everybody's going to be a hunter, but they should also be, they need to be a conservationist. We need to conserve the wildlife for future generations. We need to manage it, or, you know, disease will spread and things like that. So it was really interesting. I actually got to visit Dane in South Korea when he was deployed a couple years ago, and it was strange because there's no wildlife there. Like, there's no wildlife. You don't just see wildlife. And coming from like Oklahoma, where it's every evening you're going to look out into a field and probably see a couple deer or birds flying over, you know,
Wow.
ducks. So that was interesting. And then we lived in, you know, Hawaii, where there's no critters, like there's no
Yeah.
squirrels, there's no like, you know, they do have wildlife, but it's not the same that it is here.
Yeah.
And so it's just really interesting to see places that don't have that. So definitely don't take it for granted at all. But you know, I do feel connected to my childhood, and blessed because it was a barefoot childhood, and we lived like 20 minutes out of town. So a game for us would be like spotting, like how many people could spot the wildlife first, or how many different species of wildlife could we see. And now I just have like a natural knack for like, oh, there's a deer over in the corner right there, because I've done it for so long growing up. I know. Dane's like, man, you just have a really good eye. And I'm like, I think it was just did it so much growing up as a kid. So I do definitely feel
That's
connected.
amazing.
I feel I feel a reconnection because, like, so there's where I live now, it's more on the city side, but growing up just like 20-30 minutes west of us in the early 90s or late 80s, Royal Palm Breeze, it was more it was way less I was not
Yeah, my
I was,
dad used to work technically in the city. My
yeah,
dad used to drive 15-20 minutes out west and go dove hunting, and
yeah. And
it was just
so we
totally undeveloped. Yeah.
up until my parents divorced when I was like 6, me and my brother were always outside. Kind of like I like that expression, barefoot childhood. We would go outside. My dad was from the Amazon jungle in South America, in Peru, and he would let us catch everything. He taught us how to catch snakes, taught us how to catch squirrel, all stuff that I didn't think about like as a child, but we did it with him. Like we would hand catch snakes, iguanas. Like he would tell us like, oh, during the wintertime when it slows down, you just grab one up. And so we grew up doing stuff like that and seeing those. Breeze, you remember those big green, yellow, and red crickets? Or
Oh man, of
that were like
course.
this?
Yeah.
All kind of stuff. And then it wasn't until later on in life you can see an alligator anywhere here. You know what I'm saying? So that's not like, oh, you know, but for some people it is. But I remember when I first got married to my wife, I lived in South Texas, and I was processing meat at a beef processor. And I was of course they hired in classrooms. It was like 30 people they hired. And they were like, who wants to go to the kill floor? And I was the only one. They're like, how old are you? I was like 22. They're like, you want to go to the kill floor? I was like, yeah, well, I mean, why not? It was like such an oddball thing. But I think because in my childhood, I remember my dad, my uncles, they would go on hog hunts. My uncle was breeding rabbits because rabbit is actually a really good meat. And he would show us, yeah, you just knock them on the back of, and we'd be like, oh, that's cool, and skin them. And he's like, look, if you boil them, it looks like they're dancing. So I do feel that connection. And now I want to give one of the reasons I want to get back outdoors is because it does feel like I'm connected to my inner child, and something somewhere deep inside of me, it feels like, man, this is home. I actually put it as a post, bro. Remember I said when you explore the outdoors, you realize the city is way over it's overhyped, right? Because I think the outdoors is the biggest flex. Like I'm outside, I don't have to entertain other people. So you should probably write Barefoot Childhood. That's fire.
I know I was over here with the headphones on, so maybe you touched on this, but I hear this a lot. You said conservation. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
what exactly? I'm sure a lot of people hear that. Like, what exactly does that look like when you say that?
Yeah, so especially here in Oklahoma, you think, the buffalo and Oklahoma elk were hunted to extinction and almost
Mhm,
to extinction. And so, the buffalo herds were hunted down to like 11 elk or 11 buffalo. And they
Wow.
reintroduced them. Yeah. So you can look that up. You'll see like hills of just like buffalo skulls because buffalo hunters would come through, take the hide, and keep going. And so they killed those
mhm,
almost to extinction. And the same Oklahoma elk were completely killed to extinction. The elk that we have now are a reintroduced herd. At the breeding program now we have several thousand. So what would happen was there was no game regulations at a time. So
Mhm.
you just fed your family. You go out, kill a turkey, go out, kill whatever. There was no seasons, there was no nothing. And so what they were doing, the wild turkey is one of the greatest conservation stories as well because used to you would read, Spanish explorers would talk about in their journals a seeing just filled of turkeys, just like thousands of them. And that's like a big meal for a family, and turkeys, they're smart, but when there's 50 of them, you could at least get
mhm,
one. And so they would kill them to just decimate flocks. And so what happened was there was less than at one time they thought there was about 14, I think, million turkeys in the United States. And then it got down to less than 200,000. And it was just pockets of them. And so the NWTF is one of those ones that had helped reintroduce through breeding programs,
sure.
seasons, cutting seasons down, things like that. Now we are back up to about 6 million, I think is the number of wild
Yeah.
turkeys in the wild now. And so if we don't conserve, then we won't have enough to continue it. But at the same time, you see places that there's too many deer. And now we have diseases like CWD, chronic wasting disease, that are decimating places. And now all the deer are catching it and they have to be tested and all these things because there was too many. So proper management,
Mm,
preservation and conservation, they work together
yeah.
to make sure that these herds and animals are being managed properly. The same thing they do when they do adaptive harvest management for ducks. That's a migratory thing. So they migrate from up north all the way down south. So when people are going in and taking those surveys, the biologists are to say, hey, okay, we have a lot of, they do the banded. That's why it's a big thing. You see, like waterfowlers have all those bands. You call that bird in, and they can say, okay, this is how old the bird was. This is how
Mhm,
long it lived. And then over time they can kind of do this. Okay, we need to like lessen the restrictions on mallards here, but we need to tighten down them over here because they're really not coming in this area. So it's really interesting, but conservation is just making sure that we're conserving enough for that wildlife species to properly breed and sustain itself in an area,
mm,
that they're not overeating or over whatever the resources, but so we can come back and hunt again next year and the year
yeah.
after that and whatever, so on. And that's really a generational thing. You think
Mhm,
about buffalo, I mean, they almost wiped them completely out. So
Mhm.
it's really important that we look at the science behind it. It's really important that people buy hunting licenses and buy those because that money goes back into that research.
We had Chris from Hoodneck, and he was saying during COVID, he's like, man, he goes, I ain't never seen so many wild animals just thriving because
Yeah.
society was indoors trying to stay alive, and he was like, it was the best time of my life. He's like, you saw a ton of birds, like birds everywhere. There was no longer that sense of like we need to be safe from humans because the humans are kept away for a couple of years. And he was like, did you get to do any hunting during COVID? Like, did you see any changes in the landscape there in Oklahoma?
So during COVID and a little bit after, I hunt a military installation. So I feel like it's a little different because,
Yeah.
um, it's pretty heavily regulated. However, you know, the license sales and people in the outdoors did go up. during COVID time. Like there was a huge spike of people actually getting outdoors. So I think maybe there's another sense of there was just more people pausing to realize the wildlife during
Yeah.
that time, because we get so busy, we don't notice it all the time. And so I think a lot bit more people were just getting outdoors in general. And I do talk about that a lot, just, activities to do with outdoor kids and simple things to get people outside. As simple as bird watching, recognizing the birds in your neighborhood and stuff. And I think a lot of people took the time to do that, get out more, because the only thing that they could do is get out and social distance. So camping, or hiking, things that are
Yeah.
away from people. And so they actually were putting themselves into the space of those animals.
Yeah, that's true. We definitely did some hunting, and remember we went to Siesta Key, even Breeze.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. What a crazy time in human history, right?
Yo, are you done with that beat or what?
I got a little something over here. Yeah, I don't know if it's completely done, but yeah. Hold on, let me see what we got here. Let me see what we got. I'll have to make sure it's a little louder. Y'all said you couldn't hear it last time. Hold on.
Yeah. I like how you did it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I can hear it better that time. Not all
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way,
yeah.
but I can hear it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
still
I
a little
definitely.
choppy. I'm knocking
Yeah.
stuff, knocking things off my desk, so I know. That's
That's how
always
you know
like
it's hidden.
my indicator of if my drums are hitting or not. If I got
Yeah.
stuff falling down, and
So what we're gonna do is that after the season wraps, we're gonna release all the beats he's made this season as a compilation on all the platforms. But anyways,
Awesome.
we're approaching the end of this episode. We do have a couple questions. You're a woman, you're a woman of faith. We love that you came on here to share your story. But before we let you go, just a few questions.
Okay.
Is it, what was it, Breeze? AR or shotgun, and why?
AR, AK, or shotgun.
Shotgun, and why?
Oh man, shotgun. It's the most versatile thing in the outdoors as far as hunting. You can kill a deer with it, you kill an elk with it, you can take it into the duck blind, you can kill a turkey with it. You pretty much can harvest every animal with the shotgun with the right choke. And so the ammo is versatile. And so
There
I
it is.
definitely, if I you can't harvest every animal with an AR. I mean, you might be able to, I guess, but it'd be a little bit harder. Shotgun's definitely the most versatile tool.
Love
Okay,
that, and you
now
can still blow someone's arm off if you need to.
That's true. Personal protection, got one, that's
well, that's what I was just about to
the
say.
best
For
thing.
home defense, what do you go?
That's it.
Do you have like a shotgun, pistol, or AR for home defense?
Well, they're all readily available, but I carry a 9 mil on me at all times. And so I definitely have my pistol with me, and it's usually always within arm reach. So
Okay,
yeah.
now okay. So the other question we have there is on body or off body carry.
Both. I think, as a mom, there's different seasons of life. I did a lot of baby wearing,
Mm,
and so carrying on body was not something that was easy for me. Sometimes it wasn't safe for me. So I do a lot of off body carrying as well. I talk a lot about how to do that safely. And so I do both. It just depends. If I'm obviously when I'm in the woods, on body, hiking on body, active running around. Now my kids are getting a little older, so I do a lot of on body carrying too. So it really just depends. And the female wardrobe doesn't always fit an
mm.
on body carry, as concealed as well.
Yeah,
And so I think it's nice to be a woman and have options.
yeah. Breeze, what's the other question? The final one?
Okay. Zombie apocalypse pops off, right? You got to choose between two guys. Let's see. I know you're in Oklahoma. You gotta make it off your land, right? You gotta go to the supermarket somehow. You gotta choose between John Wick or Jason Bourne. Who you rolling with?
Oh my gosh.
Or if there's someone
Um,
else, if there's someone else.
Or throw a wild card in there. Yep.
oh my, I don't need. Wow, this is like so off the. uh, I don't know. Dane would probably like you should go with John Wick because he likes those movies, and I've had to suffer through watching them. Uh,
Not
but you
suffer.
know, I feel like I'm prepared for this.
Yeah.
Because you know I drive like a 7.3-liter lifted excursion, and I always
that's
call it my
right.
zombie apocalypse car because I drive it every day. It's my everyday drive.
There it is.
6-inch lift. I have 37-inch tires on it, and so I'm always like, I'm gonna be getting out.
I'm just gonna
So
run
I
him
mean,
over.
I
Yeah.
think that's a good
Yeah.
call. You got John Wick hanging off the back. You guys will be good.
just and all my kids inside. You know,
That's it.
yeah, it's great.
Oh,
Drive,
yeah.
Bethany. Wait, I can't do
However,
it.
I did suffer through all the Bourne movies when I was a kid. So either one, you know, I
Yeah.
think it's great. My dad used to watch those. So
Okay.
Yo, you know who we should start throwing in the mix? Bobby
Who?
Lee Swagger from The Shooter.
Wow.
That'd be
Okay.
good. That'd be
Okay.
real good. So,
yeah,
all right.
That's not
Well,
bad. I like that.
Bethany, we appreciate you. Thanks
Yes.
for coming on. We enjoyed your story, and yeah, everybody else, stay tuned for the next episode.